Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I'm Jackie, and it's that time of year, the halfway point in the year. Although I just found out recently that the literal halfway, the point is July 2nd. And this is usually the time of year when most booktubers will either do the mid-year freakout tag, or they'll do their favorite books of the year so far, or they'll do both. So I thought I would do, as of right now, I'm going to share with you guys my favorite books of the year so far. I might do the mid-year freakout tag maybe Saturday, because I'm actually working tomorrow, and I'm working at noon, and I get home until 5, so I won't be able to film any videos unless I decide to film in the morning. So here's my favorite books of the year so far. And first I'm going to start with the book that I was debating to include on this list, because I'm actually going to donate it back to the bookstore at some point where I got it, because I got it at the used bookstore in the village. So I might give it back to them, because I don't know if I'll ever read it again. And no, it's not because I didn't love it, because it obviously is on this list, and it's one I would mark as a favorite, but it's one that I feel like I don't know if I would read it, or, well, maybe I would read it again, but maybe sometime in the near future. I might even maybe I should keep it, but the only reason why I'm thinking about donating it back is because there's books I'm trying to get rid of, because I don't have a lot of room on my bookshelf. So, and as I've said in past videos, I don't know if I'll ever get another bookshelf. So, and that is, but I think I'm gonna talk about it anyway, because I did really love this book. And that is The Circle by David Eggers. I wouldn't necessarily call it dystopian. I feel like it's more like the beginnings of a dystopian. In the story, you have May Holland is this, 20-something girl. She's a dead-end job, and she wants something better. So she gets the opportunity to work at this company. It's the big company. It's like Google meets Facebook meets Tumblr meets Twitter meets, all the big social networks on the internet, all combined into one big thing. And because a friend of hers from college works there, she gets an opportunity to work there too. But the thing about this company is it believes in no privacy, no secrets whatsoever, nothing, not a Zippo Zilch, everything is on camera and is exposed. And you know everything about everyone. It's like, think of what we have now on social networks, only 10 times more. You're 10 times more exposed. Like, everybody in the world is a reality. Everyone's life in the world is a reality TV show, essentially. Which, in a way, considering, ironically, And May gets involved. I'm trying to remember exactly how things played out, but she gets the opportunity because, there was an incident where she has this hobby where she loves kayaking, and she has not shared it at the company, and they make it this really big deal. And then when being really stressed out, having problems with her boyfriend, who doesn't like the philosophies of this company, her ex-boyfriend and her parents, she decides to go kayaking at night, and she gets caught because they're by cameras that the company has put up all around the city, and she gets caught stealing a kayak. So this leads to her boss deciding to make an example of her. And she ends up wearing the special new camera that the people at her company have invented, where that, basically your life is you vlog your life. And the whole situation just basically gets out of hand, and her ex-boyfriend is dragged into this whole situation, and it's just crazy. This book is crazy, and the thing is, as disturbing as books like 1984 are and Fahrenheit 451, this one is so much more terrifying because it's so close to home, because that's almost like how we are now. We have Facebook, we have YouTube, we have Twitter. I mean, look what I'm doing right now. And not that what I'm doing right now is a bad thing, obviously, but it's, you're vlogging your life. I'm almost vlogging a part of my life. The only difference from our current world and this world is that it's not like our lives we haven't gotten to that point yet where everything about everyone is exposed on the internet. And there's not cameras all over the world that watch everything we do. Their whole belief is that if part of their belief system is that one of the things that this benefits is the truth is exposed. So they feel like if you are exposed, you will never do anything bad, because people will always be watching you. So you can't get away with doing anything bad. And it's like a worse version of 1984. Because yes, in 1984 there were cameras and people watching them and controlling everything the public did, and there was no individuality. But 1984, there are things that weren't in 1984 that exist today that David Eggers expands on and makes, is saying this is how our future could be if we are not careful. And that's why I don't know if I'll ever read this again, but it wasn't because I didn't really enjoy the book. This was a good book, and I really breezed through it. May's character was so fascinating because, personally, I like characters that are extremely flawed and unlikable. And May was a very unlikable character. That's why Scarlett O'Hara is one of my all-time favorite characters. Because that's how real people are. And there might be, if my life were a book, there would probably be things that people didn't like about me. Now, I don't know if I would be considered an unlikable protagonist if my life was in a book, but it's real. This is real. And this is a very scary book. May is a real person. She's not perfect. She's shallow. She's vain, and she represents how America can be. Not that we're so shallow and vain, but there are a lot of people that we love putting ourselves on the internet. And I will run into people on my Facebook. I'm not going to say any names in case they're ever watching my BookTube channel, but they will share, whenever they're, they'll share everything about their lives. Not everything, but they'll share a lot of things. I'm thinking, why? It's no one's business. There's only certain people on Facebook that would actually care, legitimately. If I knew them in person, they would care too. And it's even worse in this book because, there's a moment in the book where they have this thing that's kind of like the like and dislike button that's on YouTube, where you can like or dislike a video, or you can like or dislike a comment, and she disliked something that was going on in a third world country, like something terrorists were doing or something, and then all of a sudden she's freaking out because, oh my god, they're gonna come after me if I dislike this. Which I thought was really funny, because it was all because you dislike something, you think they're gonna especially attack you, then you're gonna be, there's gonna be big consequences just because you dislike something that these terrorists were doing on the internet. And May is so self-absorbed that she thinks that way. She thinks, oh my god, all because I disliked what these people are doing. Even though she doesn't know anything about the people. They don't know her. There's no way you can see individual names. Although, now, on Facebook, you can see who liked your video, but there are so many names on sometimes, or disliked or liked your comment, but there are so many, if it's a really popular comment, then there are a lot of names to go through. And it's just, the book is crazy, and I definitely recommend reading it. I don't know if everybody will be interested in it, but I think a lot of people would like this book. I even tried to tell one of my best friends about this book. And I think, I told her, but I don't know if she'll ever get around to it. But I think she should read it after, if she reads 1984, which I'm going to give her my copy of 1984. Because again, that's another book that I don't know if I'll ever read again. I loved it, but I don't know. Like, books like this, unless it's like those YA dystopians, like the Diversion series, which I have not read. Or, I'm planning on getting in, or if, I'm trying to think, what's another one? I don't have one, but, well, I guess well, no, it's not, or, I'm trying to think, but either way, like the young adult ones, if I like them, get into them, then I will keep the Hunger Games, like, I would read the Hunger Games in a heartbeat, but that does not mean I love the Hunger Games more than I love this book or the other book. It's one of these books where I think you have to read it once, and then maybe sometime in the future you'll read it again, but it's such a disturbing and scary and depressing book, and not in a horror novel kind of way. Like, where it's fun, but in a, like, oh, that's scary, that could be our future if we're not careful. So next, now by the way, I'm not doing this in order of the books of the order of these books I read. I'm just sharing the books in the order that I stack them. The next one is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I finally got around to reading this. I actually saw the Owl Crate edition in paperback, or at least the cover, the white cover with the red. I actually saw that at Books A Million the other day, and I was very tempted to buy it, but then my mom would probably, if she saw that I had 2 copies, she'd be like, why do you have 2 copies? You should just get rid of one. Of course, not that she would ever, I don't know when she would ever notice that, but I was tempted. This is a retelling of, technically it's not a retelling, it's the origin story of the Queen of Hearts. You have, the name of the Queen of Hearts, her real name is Kath, and she loves to bake, but she has a very controlling parents who are trying to marry her off. She has a pretty good relationship with her dad, but her mom's trying to marry her to the King of Hearts, and she wants nothing to do with him. She doesn't have she doesn't entirely hate him, but he's an idiot, he's a buffoon. She wants nothing to do with him, and she's not in love with him. And then at one of the king's parties, she meets this mysterious jester, the Jester. I can never say that word. And she starts to get to know him and feels drawn to him and then falls in love with him. So it's all about this forbidden love that they have, and how, and how everyone keeps pressuring her to marry the King of Hearts. And she even meets the Mad Hatter, and he's a friend of Jess's, and there's this whole, there's this connection with other, I can't think of what the other world is called, the Looking Glass world, and that's where Jess is from, and again, it's been a long time since I read this. I read The Circle a lot more recently than I read this one, but this was so interesting. I love the little forbidden romance, and I love seeing Kath's character, just her development, because she's such a sweet person in the beginning of the book, and then you see her slow progression, and it gives a good reason why she becomes the Mad Queen that we know in the original Alice in Wonderland story. And I love because there's this whimsicalness, and there's a lot of characters in Kath's Kingdom that you recognize them as characters. Like, you meet the future Duchess, you meet the Mock 2 will become the Mock Turtle. The Mad Hatter is connected to Jess, the love interest. And I really the love interest is really awesome. He's charming, he's sweet and caring, but he's not broody. he's not like goody goody. It's like the perfect balance of my favorite type of male characters. And it's just such an interesting retell a story, an origin story to the Queen of Hearts. And I love stories, origin stories of villains and how they became the villains we know and love. Like, that's essentially what they tried to do, what they did on Once Upon a Time. Originally, we got the origin story of all the characters. And not just the villains, but the heroes, too, in that show. And that's why, at first, in the beginning, I loved that show. Unfortunately, as I've said multiple times in videos, it went into a direction that I just was not happy with. And my favorite character, I felt like they got shoved to the side, or they became the scapegoat of the show, but that's a whole nother thing, and I don't want to go into that, because I probably bring up the show enough as it is. So, and since we got a lot more to talk about, I'm going to stop here, but I love this cover. I mean, I love the cover with the Owl Crate cover, and like I said, I saw a paperback edition of the white cover at Bookstagram, and again, I almost bought it. But either way, I love this cover, and I love the naked hardback. Like, I like how, because most naked hardbacks are just a solid color. This part is a different color. There's really no picture. Sometimes they have a little picture like this book has, but they're always so boring. But I love this one. This is such a fun. It looks like a card. Now, that one I actually am going to keep. Next, I have, and this is one of the books I read last month, and that is Home, a memoir of my early years by Julie Andrews. And yes, this is the Julie Andrews of Mary Poppins fame and Sound of Music. And she's also Queen Clarice Rinaldi in the Princess Diaries movies. Now, of course, I feel like with nonfiction, it depends on the person. I mean, with any book. But with nonfiction, if you're going to read it, it has to be about something that you're someone or something that you are extremely passionate about. Because nonfiction can be so dry and boring. Now, of course, what helps is this is a memoir. So it's written like a diary. She's sharing about her life and sharing her own personal stories about how she grew up, about her experiences in the theater, and how she first came to Hollywood, and her experiences during the war, because she grew up during World War II, and how that affected her personally, and being around during the London Blitz, and how even today, in small ways, it still affects her, like loud sounds she can't stand. And we also learn about her relationship with her biological parents, and how they divorced, and they both got remarried, and her relationship with both individual parents. It's just so personal, and I think that really makes it much more interesting. Now, if you're not into this actress, then yeah, it probably won't be interesting to you. It might even be boring. But I think if you are interested at all, then I think the fact that it's a memoir and not just a biography makes it 10 times more readable than, a biography. And I just love how personal it gets, how she's so open, and it's like I said, it's like reading her diary without being inappropriate. She's taking the time to share this personal information, her personal story. Unfortunately, the only downside is there is mention of, it talks about how she got involved in Mary Poppins, and then, but it doesn't go beyond getting involved in Mary Poppins. And all we get is how she worked, how Disney got her involved with the project, how she met P.L. Travers, and when they go to Hollywood, and when it ends with her and her husband and daughter going to Hollywood, which I was surprised, by the way, because I didn't realize that her daughter, that the man, Blake Edwards, is not her daughter's father, that she was married to someone else at the time. So I didn't know that she was married more than once. Now, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he, something happened between them, if he died, or, or like there was trouble in paradise between the two of them. I don't know, because it doesn't get that far. But, she does mention briefly little bits and hints about Sound of Music and her relationship with Blake Edwards. But we don't, like I said, we don't get to that point, which is that was a little disappointing. But this is her early years and how her career got started, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. But other than that, it was such a great book, and it was well written. And I kind of almost want to read all those children's books she wrote. Unfortunately, I don't have any little nieces in my life, so I don't have an excuse. But if I ever see them at the library, I might check them out anyway, just cheat and check them out, even if I love Julie Andrews. Next, this was a book I read in April. This is a retelling of the fairy tale Beauty and the Beast. In the story, our main character, our main beauty, is Nyx. And she, because of what happened a long time ago, because of some stupid mistake her father made, Nyx has been bred and raised to kill the demon or the beast who rules over their country, over their land. She will marry him when she gets to the right age, and then she must kill him. So that time comes. I don't know how old she is, but that time comes, and she marries him, and of course, just like in Beauty and the Beast, there's dislike between them, and discord, and they can't stand each other. She can't stand the demon, but of course she learns that killing him will not be that easy. And what's interesting about this beast is that he has a shadow that is part of him, that is kind of his slave, and then he's a demon. So it's kind of like this story also kind of, just like Hunted, which I did a review of yesterday, the dual personality, which I really like. And in fact, that's kind of how I felt like how it was in Once Upon a Time. The character of Rumpelstiltskin was also the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. So he kind of, and how Rumpelstiltskin became Rumpelstiltskin we know in the original fairy tale is that he made a deal to protect his son. He was a human at one point, and he's a demon inside of him. So I always looked at it as there's the human part of him, and then there's the demon. And that's kind of how the direction they went in this story. Now, I don't know if Rosamund Hodge was inspired by Once Upon a Time, or if it's just a coincidence that she did that. Because even, like I said, Hunted even kind of had the dual persona as well. So Nyx starts connecting with his shadow. But she also starts to form a connection with the demon Ignifex. I don't know if that's the correct way to say it. And she must explore the maze of his house to figure out how to kill him and to understand what he is and his story and everything. And like I said, like Beauty and the Beast, she starts to fall for the beast and everything. What I like about this one is this was very different. It's funny, what I loved about Hunted, this one did the complete opposite. It still had the same basic elements of the Beauty and the Beast storyline, but it did not follow the original fairy tale. Which is kind of the direction I wanted to go. I want to go in this epic novel I want to write someday, that a part of the story is going to have a romance that's very much Beauty and the Beast inspired. So, but that's a whole other story. So, and it also has it mixes I want to say it was Roman mythology, which I thought was really cool. I always thought that those concepts, when they mix mythology and fairy tales and do modern versions of them, I always thought that was really cool. And I know a lot of people did not like it, but I like the elements that made people not like this book are elements that I love about this book. And I want to read Crimson Beauty as well. I want to read that one too. I think that one looks really interesting as well. That is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. And so far, the Beauty and the Beast retellings I've really enjoyed this year. So next is, I have been really getting into reading more historical fiction, especially about certain time periods like the American Revolution. And so this one, The Traitor's Wife, if you know your American history and know about the American Revolution, you know that Benedict Arnold had betrayed our country, what was to be the future of North America, and went back to the British. And this book is a fictionalized version of the true story of Benedict Arnold's wife, Peggy Shippen, and how she orchestrated everything. Now, that part is true, but some of it is exaggerated in this book, and it's told through the eyes of a servant of Peggy's, who is actually a fictional character. I'm trying to think of, where is it? Okay, it doesn't say her name, but it's told through her eyes. It's told how she sees the whole situation, but of course she's a fictional character, so. But I just love the idea of that it's this woman who manipulated everything. She manipulated these smart, egotistical men, and how her manipulations and machinations could have resulted in us not existing, America not existing. It's just so fascinating, and it's also a very intriguing way, and you just get enraptured by the story, and you get caught up in this tale, this weave together tale of how this woman, like I said, almost prevented America from happening, from winning the war. And it's just one woman who they see as a simpering, little innocent young flower who, is really beautiful. But she proves early on in the book that she pays attention and knows a lot, and she's highly intelligent, and she flirts and is around enough of the officers, whether American or British, that she can manipulate things and prove that she understands what's going on, the war and the politics. And that's one, like I said, I love how it's written, and I love how it's all because of just this woman, how she orchestrated everything. And she didn't even, there were no really dire consequences, except for that she, had to live with her husband in exile. And even then, I think she, lived in Britain, in the country that he chose. So maybe it wasn't considered exile for her. But it's just, she's really the devil in disguise. She's the serpent in the garden. And she doesn't really get consequences, and no one finds out until after she dies that she is really the one who's the cause of all this. So I just, this is a great, amazing historical fiction. And if you like American history, then I definitely would say check this book out. Okay, next, I'm going to see how many books I can, is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Now, I know I've heard that people are saying, you either love this one or you love the other one. And then the one you don't love, and usually the one you don't love is the one you're just. But so far, I was very happy. I loved reading this book. And I know a lot of people say it's very pretentious, but you are dealing with a bunch of snobby college kids who are in this elitist class where they're studying Greek, and they don't associate with anybody else except for their own group of people. So, that's the point. They're a bunch of arrogant, snobby, little two-faced pricks. That's the point of this story. And maybe, that is a turnoff because you can't relate to those kind of characters. I mean, I can't either, but I still was so fascinated with with this story and these characters. And this is basically about this kid, Richard, from California, who decides to go to this prestigious school in Vermont. And he decides he wants to join this very selective class where this group of students are studying Greek. And, you meet, and they're very, pompous little brats. And, do all these bad things like smoking, drinking, and all that kind of stuff. But they're also highly intelligent. And they think of themselves as far superior to everybody else. I mean, even their teachers, I want you to only take classes from me, only me. So Richard has to, part of his way of getting into this class is he can't take any classes by anyone. He does. One of the classes he needs, he takes with someone else. And in fact, this teacher does not like the teacher, the guy who teaches Greek, who teaches him Greek. And it's just, I love to be able to read this book all the way through. I don't know if that will ever happen. I assume that I can read it all the way through since I read it once. Well, that still has not happened. And then something really terrible happens. And it's about the machinations of that and how things are handled and how everything starts to fall apart. And how, and Richard's regrets and the downfall of that situation and what results in the end. It's just, I really found it fascinating. People like this are always intriguing to me. Like I said, really flawed characters are always interesting to me. And I really enjoyed the writing and descriptions and just exploring these people's lives. They kind of pissed me off sometimes, and I wanted to smack them off their pedestals. I still loved it. Just like I still love, Throwing a Glass series, but sometimes I just want to punch Aelin and smack her off her pedestal, kick her off her pedestal. But I really enjoyed this. And maybe not everybody will, but I personally loved it. And it's, like I said, it's one of my favorites of the year so far. Next is the third book in the Raven Cycle, Blue Lily, Lily Blue. So the only thing I can tell you is I'll tell you what the first book is about. There's a girl, Blue. She's psychic. She's not psychic. She can only all the women in her family except for herself are psychic, including her mom. But the only gift she has is she can amplify their powers than anyone else who has special powers. She's told two things: that when she kisses her true love, he will die, and that to stay away from the Raven Boys, which is a special prestigious high school in their town. Well, one of those things happens. She makes friends. She meets a group of Raven Boys. Richard Gansey III, Rowan, I can't remember his last name, Adam, who has a little bit of likes Blue, drops a little behind, and Noah. You have Rowan, who's the bad boy. Gansey's the charming, charismatic leader. And then you have Adam, who's kind of the troubled one. He's not necessarily a rebel, but he's from the wrong side of the tracks. He got into the school because of scholarship. And then you have Noah, who's kind of the quiet, thoughtful one. He's the peacekeeper of the group. Oh, and Gansey's also kind of like the mama bear of the group, of the four boys. And Blue finds out that they are searching for a long dead Welsh king who, if you wake him up from his sleep, he will grant you a wish. So it's all about Blue joining their little quest to find this Welsh king. It's not urban fantasy per se, it's actually more magical realism. And it's hard to explain her writing style, but I just love her writings, Maggie Stiefvater's writing style. Now, I don't know if I'll ever get into the Wolves of Mercy Falls series because the premise, I am no longer interested in that kind of premise. But this so far is my favorite. Now, I haven't read The Raven King, and I have heard people do not like The Raven King, and they still consider this one their favorite. And so far, it is my favorite of the three. And it's just such a fascinating read. And like I said, I love the writing style and all the characters. They're all like my babies. They're so precious to me. I love all of them. And I found out about one particular ship in the story that I'm actually very excited that it's happening. And it kind of takes out the whole love triangle aspect. Like, there is a love triangle in this book, but it's not important. It doesn't dominate the story. The story isn't focused on the love triangle, which I really appreciate. Because even though I have no problem with love triangles, and I'm more tolerant of them than most people, and I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, I won't read that book because it has a love triangle in it. It does, but for those who are like that, the love triangle, yes, it is in there, but it really does not dominate. The story is not about that. The story is about Blue's relationship with all of the Raven boys and their search for this Welsh king. And their relationship not with Blue, but also with each other, the foursome. It's just such a good read. And like I said, I fell in love with her writing style, and I love all of her characters. And I do want to read that Opal book, but it is an ebook, and I no longer have a gift card. I used up all the money on my gift card for my Nook, which is the Barnes & Noble e-reader. So I can't download the book right now, but maybe someday. I mean, I haven't read the Raven King yet anyway, so. But yes, this is my favorite so far. I don't know if... Okay, so next is... And I have a lot of hardback books now. Because I've gotten to hardbacks. And the used bookstore, the hardbacks are all like $5, the most expensive, so. The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. So, this story is about Alice. It's Alice and her mother. They've been traveling their whole lives and constantly on the move. And Alice knows that her mother's relationship with her grandmother is very on shaky ground. They don't have a good relationship. And she barely knows her grandmother. And she's always been told by her mother, she's like, don't mess with her grandmother's, the fairy tale book her grandmother written, which is filled with all these obscure fairy tales, these very dark, gruesome fairy tales, and Alice is told to stay away from them. That she wants her to have nothing to do with them. So, but then, during their last move, Alice's mother gets kidnapped. And the only clue that Alice has is a page from her grandmother's fairy tale book, The Hazelwood, which she has told to stay away from, and a page from the book, from her grandmother's book, and a warning from her mother to stay away from the Hazelwood. And the person that she suspects stole her mother, the person that might have stolen her mother, kidnapped her mother, looks like he could have come from her grandmother's fairy tale book. So Alice teams up with this boy at her new school who is a super fan of her grandmother's, who track down her mom and to find out more about the Hazelwood, because, of course, like I said, all evidence points to a connection to the Hazelwood, the fairy tale book. So, and then it starts to seem like characters from her grandmother's fairy tale book start appearing in the real world. And they start chasing Alice and this boy until, as they're traveling to her grandmother's estate, the Hazelwood, which is actually called the Hazelwood. So it's kind of like an urban fantasy, but with fairy tale-esque characters. And I loved it. And I also loved, once again, I loved the part that a lot of people hated. I think or not hated, but there was an aspect of the story. Those people that aren't into these kind of books. Now, I don't know if people who like fantasy and love hardcore fantasy or love fairy tales disagree, but I liked the aspect when the fairy tale land aspect, especially when they get to the fairy tale land world, the world of the Hazelwood. But I love this, and I love this cover. It's so beautiful. I almost don't want to, I'm thinking, and what I'm thinking about doing is because I want one of my best friends to read it, but I don't know if I will ever, although it's looking like they won't be able to visit me this summer again, but I don't know if I'll ever get around to giving it up to her, but I'm also kind of trying to make room on my bookshelf for other books. But I loved this book. It was awesome and crap. And I definitely, I think, I like all the characters. I like how, it was a gritty, but it wasn't too gritty. And it was just such a fun ride, and I do want to read this again, but like I said, I was trying to make room on my bookshelf, so I've been offering to give these books to my my best friends, some of my best friends, but yep. And I'm going to stop here for now because this video is too long, and I might have to redo that part anyway. So, to be continued. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, click subscribe. And to all my subscribed people, I hope you are enjoying your reading. And I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye.